Greetings. A real treat today for me. Um, I'm honored to introduce Marcin Ratajczak. He is the CEO and founder of Inuru, and
Hello.
today, he will tell us about what it takes to bring electronics into everyday products. Marcin, I'm going to screen share for you.
So the presentation today is about our printed electronic solutions and, in our opinion, what it really takes to get printed electronics into the market. Next slide, please. So what we do, please start the video. So what we do as a company, Inuru, is we do packaging that lights up. And I mean, packaging that lights up seems like, something very easy compared to all the visions that we have seen in the past, right? Maybe Christoph, take the next slide. And I mean, but packaging is not so easy as it seems. You could start the video, please. So that's another thing that we have done in the past, right? So we have done something for Disney and for Coke. It was a pretty big thing in 2019. And there's also another thing on the next slide where we can see, it's integrated into packaging. And I mean, packaging, as you can see it, please, the next slide, is, different, right? Every packaging is different. This is something that we have learned. And the complexity that arises out of this is that it requires electronics to be extremely versatile and flexible. And at the same time, if we can go to the next slide, there's a lot of stress in the supply chain. And I would like to go through that a little bit to explain what a product or a packaging actually might sustain. And one of these things, it starts already at the bottling process. So what you see on this slide here is, beside the video with the bottling fingers, you have down there a temperature curve, a typical temperature curve what packaging needs to sustain, with a maximum in red and a minimum in blue. And at all the stages of transport of an FMCG product. In this case, we have taken a typical bottle. And what you see is there are multiple stations. And in each of these stations, there's certain type of stress applied on top of the packaging. So in the beginning, when we apply, for example, a label on top of a bottle, this label is, influenced by mechanical stress. So the label is banded from roll to roll machinery. It needs to be applied on the bottles, and then they, queue up together, stick with each other, touch each other, and you need to make sure that, this label survives that, right? So that's a tough thing for electronics. Next thing, please. And then comes the transport. And the transport is where things really get complicated, because depending in which country you are, the temperatures there can, drop up to minus 20 degree during transportation. This really happens. We witnessed one of our shipments that, was shortly outside of a warehouse where it was shipped and nearly got destroyed. And then we have a temperature increase of up to, let's say, 70 degrees, and that happens in warm countries, right? So temperature is coming into that as well. And if we go then to the retail store, we could go for the next slide, please. Then we have another thing that pops in. This is humidity. So when we once delivered to China, we have realized that when we take out the product out of the fridge in the store, they're cooled down, but they come out and immediately the moisture comes on the product, right? So for a normal label, it's not a problem to speak about, being waterproof. But here we have humidity, and we realize that every label that has electronics inside actually has to be waterproof, right? And that's a big problem. So if you can go for the next slide, please. And then in the end, when you try to solve all these problems, you have a product that needs to be recyclable, because it's all about packaging. So this is getting really complex, right? So what we thought in the beginning when we started with the company, that packaging actually will be really easy to do, because it's just packaging. It doesn't need to live long like that. We have totally underestimated it and realized that electronics needs to be super robust to get there. And today's solutions, they usually fail, and we will see where they fail in the next slide. They usually